Hi, my name's Leon Rowe, currency trader and trading coach at trading180.com, and welcome to this week's supply and demand Forex technical analysis. If you are a new watcher, welcome. If you are continuing to watch every week, welcome back and thank you for returning. Hope you had a great trading week last week. This video is timestamped, so if you go down into the description box below, you can skip to your favorite currency pairs, or you could watch basically the whole thing and look for some trade, some levels, some supply and demand levels on all the currency or major currency pairs. So I'm going to go over the major currency pairs as well as the Dow Jones Dollar Index, and also at the end I'm going to show you a trade that I took that I'm currently in at the moment. Haven't taken any profit. I'm up around about 90 pips or so. So that'll be at the end. Now, starting off on the Dow Jones Dollar Index, this is obviously a measure of strength, right, for the dollar, and it measures strength against a basket of the major currency pairs or currencies like the pound, the yen, and the euro. So what we have on the weekly on the right hand side is last week we had prices come up into this weekly supply zone, and then we came up again, and then there was some supply here. So look what that looks like on the daily time frame chart on the left hand side. You can see that we had prices kind of spike through, put in this outside daily candle, and then prices came up, couldn't really break the highs, and again we have this bearish engulfing candle. I know this is technical analysis, but from a fundamental perspective, we've had GDP figures, I think, came out on the was it yesterday or the Thursday? I think it was the Thursday, and it was below expected. I think it was expected at 2.2 and it came out at 2.0. So not to say that it's the economy slowing down in the US, but it would have been better for them to have at least meet expectations or be have some growth. So maybe what's happening is you're getting some profit taking here, right? Profit taking around from the dollar in general, right? And that reflects obviously on the Dow Jones Dollar Index, right? So you've seen this last week. And really how you would use the dollar index is you would look at other levels where prices are on the Dow Jones Dollar Index, and then see if you want to get short at that level or long at that level, for example, right? So we know that we're at a supply zone here, and then you would go to the dollar yen, dollar Swiss, dollar CAD, etc., and then see if they're also maybe at a demand zone, right, or a supply zone, and see if you want to be a buyer or seller, right? So we have got this engulfing candle here, dollar weakness at the moment, potential dollar weakness. We do have a demand zone here, right? Demand right on the daily. So what you're seeing is pretty much, if you want to be a seller right now, and you're trading the daily time frame charts, you can also use the obviously intraday time frames for daily time frame zones. Is look for any kind of reason for an entry to try and get short on obviously the dollar pairs at the moment. And then if you're looking at longs, what you might want to do is wait for prices to come down into this area before looking at a long on a corresponding currency pair. This would be your next zone of demand, and then this would be your next area of demand. But if you're going back to the weekly, then weeklies, or you're probably looking at around this area here, right? So it would look like probably around here on the daily, on the left hand side. On the weekly, you're probably looking at maybe a deeper pullback into this area before looking to potentially get long. So you could take advantage of some short term profit taking negative sentiment potentially for the dollar at the moment on some other currency pairs. So let's look at the dollar yen, right? And dollar yen, we are actually coming up into this supply zone. So what we could have is, we know that, you know, there's some dollar weakness coming in. So we could see next week, if there's continued dollar weakness, this start to sell off too. Just be aware that the yen is a risk currency, meaning that it responds to whether the sentiment is risk on or risk off. Risk on being when everything is lovely in the markets, traders are looking to take on more risk for more return, and risk off is when you have, you know, there is some uncertainty in the market, which, you know, around the trade Trump tariffs, let me get that right. Trade Trump tariffs and the trade war, basically. There was some uncertainty going on last week that seemed to have cleared up or moved to the side slightly, with some comments that came out from the Trump administration. So risk seems to be on at the moment. That can change, you know, a comment can come out here and there, and then we're on risk off again. But for now, the market seemed to be, I think it was from Tuesday or Wednesday, the statement came out from the Trump administration saying that they're kind of backing off from China, you know, or being so forceful with their tariffs, and they're going to try and go a different route. So risk on this week, you can see the dollar strengthened or the yen weakened in that sense, it being a risk on environment. And if you did manage to take this trade here on the dollar yen, right, and get into the upside, well done. From around the 109.50 level, you know, it's gone up about 100 pips. So potential shorts this week, right? If the dollar, if there is some dollar weakness, right, and again, you've got levels to be buyers. And again, if you're looking at, you know, the lower time frame, let's say for example the 4 hour, this is what you'd be looking for prices to come down into one of these zones, and then look for your potential entry. So for example, this candle here was quite a bullish candle, nice outside candle, right? And then what you do is, obviously, if that is your entry trigger, then you'd be taking that to the upside, and you can see obviously decent trade to the upside, right? So from a daily perspective, that's what you're seeing. Weekly, yeah, we've got the weekly, you know, demand zone right here. So if we do see prices kind of pull back into this deeper area, let's say for example we get a pullback right here, then that'd be like another level with confluence with this weekly demand zone. So moving on to the dollar Swiss this week on the weekly, we've come up into this, obviously this supply zone on the right hand side. Let's go to the weekly chart, and you can see it's kind of bounced off it again. And then this week we've come up slightly, and then, you know, dropped off a little bit. So you can see that corresponds on the daily right here. We've had a move up, another move up into the top end of that supply zone, and then we've had this move down corresponding with some dollar weakness, right? So if you are looking to get short, again, you may want to wait for maybe a slight retracement potentially, if you can get one, right? Or if you're looking to get in on the daily time frame chart, you know, that's pretty much an entry trigger. Not to say that you should be, you know, taking any kind of financial advice from me, right, and when to enter and when to exit, but you know, that is an engulfing candle. Calculate your risk reward, see how far you know, you potentially want to you know, take your reward at. If you are doing it, then down at the end would probably be a decent, maybe like a 1-to-1 risk reward ratio, if 1-to-1s are your thing. But if you're looking to buy the dollar, which I am, against this currency pair, then I'll be looking somewhere around, you know, this lower end, this 98 zone around here. So maybe some short-term sentiment is good for me, and then I'll be looking for, you know, some price action around here to try and get long. So yeah, we got potential opportunity. We had the opportunity here last week, so if you took advantage, brilliant. But I'm looking to probably get long on the dollar and obviously that can change as well depending on what news comes out, etc., and sentiment. But for now, technicals are brilliant. Let's look at the dollar CAD. The dollar CAD weekly chart on the right hand side. We've come up into this supply zone here. You can see we reacted, and then we put in this very bearish outside candle right here, right? Very, very bearish. And you can see what that looks like on the daily time frame chart. It's a daily time frame. This is what it looked like, and there were several chances to get short on this this currency pair. So you had this nice outside candle, and then you had a nice engulfing candle to the downside, right? And again, this coincides with potential dollar weakness, right? And some Canadian dollar strength, right, at the moment. So yeah, we have a bit of a pullback, and if you're looking to get short at the moment, you probably missed out on it, obviously. So you'd be looking for prices to pull back into this level at some point, and maybe pull back into the underside of this area here, right, before looking to get short. If you're looking to get long at the moment, right now, you're looking at this area right here. If we do come down into this zone again, do your due diligence when it comes to your price action and your fundamentals as well, and sentiment. So those are your options for the dollar CAD this week. New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Let's go to the weekly. So the weekly, we did have a few weeks ago, quite a few weeks ago, we had this bounce here, bouncing off this demand zone. Let me zoom in. Right, and then we had another bounce here, but with dollar strength, a lot of dollar strength going on. Last week, and New Zealand central bank pretty much coming out and being quite dovish on their statement. There, we got a bit of a negative. Obviously, it wasn't necessarily the pair to buy to the upside, right? But now we're down into this demand zone here, and with some dollar profit taking potentially going on, we could see a move to the upside, right? Could see a move to the upside again. Just wait for your price action. That's the weekly. This is what it looks like on the daily time frame chart. So you can see we've broken through what was this demand zone, which had worked previously, gone through here, right, and now we've touched this demand zone. I'm going to put a few more demand zones on this time frame as well. All right, there's one here. I'm going to stretch it down to here, quite a wide zone. Yeah, and that would be where you'd be looking at getting in long. And if you see a wide demand zone like this, right, and you're thinking to yourself like, what the hell, what's going on? That's quite a wide zone. What you do is you'd look for horizontal support and resistance, right, as confluence, right? You can see that we had some support and resistance within that demand zone. So that's the area that I would be looking within, the 66 round number just above would be the area that I'd be looking for. So again, just zoom down into your lower time frame charts if you trade the lower time frame charts, and then you'd be looking for an entry down here, right? But for now, we've got this demand zone still here, this 87 level, 67 level, and the lower end of demand zones and supply zones are usually where we have potentially the strongest bounces. Yeah, at the moment we're looking at this price action here. We've touched this demand zone here at the 67.50 level, right? So we could see a reaction to the upside. Again, just do your due diligence, but this potentially could be a nice buy to the upside this week. If you're looking at selling, then this is going to be your first supply zone right here. So you could see some short-term relief, and then you're looking at a trade to the downside, right? So the pound dollar, right, last week, beginning of the week, I did point this supply zone out, and you can see if you were one of those traders who took this trade, well done to you again. You know, pretty much it was right there. You had some brilliant price action on the 8 hour, right? You had this nice engulfing candle, right? Bearish engulfing candle to the downside, made some pips, right? Again, we're seeing some dollar weakness at the moment, so it's reacting around this lower end of this demand zone here. I'll draw a couple more demand zones in here, put it from there to there and there to there, change that to demand and that to demand. Right, so if this level does hold, which it looks like we're getting a nice engulfing candle on the daily time frame chart, what we could see is prices range between, you know, from here and here, or between this is going to be your next supply zone. I'm probably looking at this area here. If we can get up here to look for potential shorts, right? If we get the right price action here, then I may enter and take advantage of some pound weakness potentially against the dollar. But this is probably the area that I'm looking at. But also, again, I'll be looking at the dollar index for confluence. So probably here would be, you know, the best trade or the best location to take, right? As if you're looking to get short, if you're looking to get long, right now you could enter on the daily, right? Nice engulfing candle, calculate your pips and your risk. If that's a bit too much for you, then you'd probably be waiting for some sort of what would be, if you're looking at a lower time frame chart, would be a double, maybe like a pullback, right, into, you know, a level before looking to get long on that currency pair. So the pound yen, again, some pound strength going on, right? And obviously we are in, you know, risk as sentiment has changed. So we came down into this demand zone, and we've obviously pushed up to the upside, right? And technically this is actually a supply zone, right? This is a supply zone because we did make a lower low with this candlestick here, so we could see some potential you know, an entry to the downside depending, but again, looking at the risk sentiment and the pound also has Brexit hanging over it as well, hanging over obviously Britain. Theresa May's in a bit of hot water. You know, it's getting closer to, you know, Brexit deadlines, and negotiations are taking place. So you know, we could see some short-term weakness in obviously the pound as well, right? But the pound did get some good news recently with an uptick in the GDP, right? So that obviously bodes well for the pound, which is the reason why we're seeing this this move up as well. But here would probably be the better location to look for probably a short trade, or potentially here if we can get that this week. From a demand perspective, you probably miss this trade if that's too much pips for you. Again, you'd have to wait for a pullback and then look for prices to come up to that zone right there, that demand zone. So moving on to the pound Swiss. We had some hidden demand right here on the daily. Actually, let's look at the weekly. Yeah, so right, we were into this this weekly demand zone here. Did get a bounce off it, and then we've got, you know, a little move up, which is represented by this potentially engulfing candle right here. So again, if you want to take advantage of some short-term pound strength, right, this could be an entry right now to the upside, right? And then if you were looking for shorts, this would be the first area. But just keep in mind that this supply zone has been touched quite a few times, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So the more times the level is touched is the weaker it becomes, right? So if you are looking to short at this area, just be aware of that. You know, maybe just drop your size, your risk size, and maybe to maybe half or a quarter, just to see if it works out. From a demand perspective, this is where you'll be looking to obviously take the buy trade. If that doesn't work out, then you'll be looking at, you know, probably a lower demand zone right here, and obviously your next supply zone is right there. So moving on to the euro dollar. So we did react off of this demand zone right here once, twice. Again, we did get like a nice outside candle, engulfing candle right here to the upside. Again, a bit of a pullback in case you missed it. So this was your second opportunity to get long. Now we have this bullish candle right here. So if you missed out this week, unfortunately, you'd have to wait for probably a pullback into this zone, but then it would be like the fourth time it'd been touched, you know, obviously first, second, third, fourth, into the fifth time. So this might not be the best trade to take from a technical demand perspective, but obviously if your fundamentals are in line with buying the euro over the dollar, then that's what you're looking for. At the moment, the next nearest strongest supply zone is going to be here, and this is where I'll be looking for short positions, potentially, if you know, there is a setup and you know, there is still some dollar value. This is dollar strength, right? That's the supply zone right here. We've got bullish supply here, so bullish supply, bearish supply here. So yeah, this could be a decent level to get short. Looking at the euro yen was a bit mixed here. We did come up into this supply zone. We did get a drop off right this week on a lower time frame. So if we go down to the 4 hour, this is what you would have seen, a bit of a sell-off. But again, with risk coming back on into the market, you can see pretty much, you know, yen weakness. So we can take off this this area right here, and now this becomes really our level of demand zone, right up into potentially this supply zone here, or we've got another one further up right there, right? And then if we do get prices pull back into this area here, what I'd be looking for is, you know, some price action obviously on the lower time frame chart for me to try and get long, right, on this currency pair. Moving on to the euro pound, we did break through this supply zone, which had been touched once, twice, three times, several times anyway, and now we're up into this supply zone here, right, putting this quite bearish candle. If we go to the weekly, let's see what's happened. No weekly supply zone until we get to the top here. But from a daily perspective, got a lower high, lower low being made, and you can see that we've reacted right off of that, you know, that level right there. So if you are looking to get short, this could be potentially your short at the moment, or if you'd wait for prices to come back up, that would represent a double top pattern on the lower time frame charts, and then you could wait for obviously signal and then look to get short. From a buying perspective, we have created higher highs, right? We've got that there. We've got quite a large range, to be fair, on the daily time frame chart. It's a bit messy, but it is a prices are making higher highs and higher lows at the end of the day. So that's our demand zones, right? What I'll do is I'll leave it on. So from a shorting perspective, this is where you want to take advantage of. From a long perspective, zoom down into, again, a lower time frame chart, and be looking for this area here. And again, you've got some support and resistance here, so where traders may be looking at. It's not in an alignment with this area, to be fair. It is on the top end, but if you were looking to potentially, you know, buy, this would probably be the first area where it would react. But I'm looking for something, you know, obviously a bit deeper within this area to look to try and get to the long side, right? That'd be the first area, and then I'd be looking for this area right here to try and look to get long if I was buying the euro. Now going on to the Euro Swiss. This is pretty much just been in this range on the daily time frame chart. On the weekly, yeah, it's just pretty much for the past few weeks just been literally, you know, within, not really moved anywhere. But if we do get prices obviously move down to this area here, look to be a buyer, and that corresponds on the daily time frame chart. So you could see obviously some supply here, demand here, but I think my preferred demand zone is going to be around this area here. If we can get some if prices can fall down to this area here. Euro Aussie has been going higher and higher. Demand zone here, look at the weekly, yeah, we've had move up, and it's pretty much, we're going into this supply zone right here, the weekly supply zone. So if we're looking at maybe a trade, right, and from a weekly perspective, you can see where it is on the daily time frame chart, around this 1.59, you know, round number area here. So if we're looking at daily time frame chart, we did see a reaction here this week, but potentially we could see prices move up, and then that would be the underside of the weekly supply zone, right? And then look to potentially get short. If you're looking for a pullback, right? Pullbacks, you're looking at this area here, this 57 level, before looking to get long. Again, looking to get long if that doesn't work out for you. Right here, this be more of a deeper pullback as you're buying. If you're buying the euro, you're pretty much buying at the highs at the moment, right? So you want more of a pullback from this low to this high, and then look for a deeper pullback before looking to get long. The Australian dollar, US dollar, what do we see this week? Weekly time frame chart, this is the weekly zone. You can see, you know, some buying here. Again, some buying here. We've put in this pin bar, right? So it is reacting off of this demand zone, and you can see now on the daily time frame chart. Daily time frame chart, broken through this daily demand zone, but this one held. So last week we did get a reaction off of that previous demand zone, which was just previously deleted, and now we've come down really into you know, this lower end demand zone here, which is the lower end of the weekly demand zone on the weekly time frame chart, right? And we're reacting here. So again, if this is enough for you to get long, then be my guest. But we do have really a supply zone right above you, right on top of you from a daily perspective, as we've made a lower low from this candle here. So from a selling perspective, if you're buying, you know, you're buying really into potentially a supply zone, right? Just from a technical perspective, again, fundamentals and sentiment is really what is driving prices, not technicals. So again, if you refer back to potentially the US dollar index, if we see some weakness on the dollar index, then you will probably see this move straight through. If we get some strength from the dollar index, right, then you're going to see probably this start to happen in a short position, right? You know, prices start to obviously get short in this currency pair, right? So if it does break through, your next real area to try and get short would be, you know, pretty much up here. And if you're looking to buy again, it'd be at the lower end of this area here, right? If we do break above this area here, then this area, so this supply zone, if we do take out this supply, then this becomes a stronger area of demand, right? This will be our new demand zone. But for now, these are the options. Now we've got, lastly but not least, the Australian dollar Japanese yen, and this is also my trade that I wanted to show you as well, that I was talking about at the beginning of this video. So from a supply and demand perspective, right, prices came down into this demand zone here, right, and prices pretty much, you know, started to react and went higher. And if you are looking to be a seller, right, then that's pretty much your first level to try and get short, right? So why did I enter this trade, and what is my analysis really for this Australian dollar Japanese yen? And you can see this little box here. So first of all, what I do is, and you can do this too, this is just some of the steps that I go through, you know, really the foundation steps that I look for when I look for, you know, to buy or sell any kind of currency pairs. I determine the value first of all, right? So I do my fundamental analysis, and then what I do is and sentiment analysis, and then I go to a time chart, and then I look at supply and demand zone. So where are we, you know, buying and selling? Where's the strongest areas of demand? Where's the strongest areas of supply, right? So this area here, right at the bottom here, I saw this as a decent area of demand. Yes, we had touched it a few times, but around here, I was, you know, thinking to myself that we do have a risk on environment. Risk on had come into the market, right, when we were down at this 81 level, right, on a lower time frame chart. So from a value range perspective, and really just value ranges for me are identify where exactly we are when it comes to value, right? So prices between a high and the low are an agreed value range between buyers and sellers. Buyers would agree that the 80, around this 80.5, 81 level is a bargain, and sellers would agree that the 84 level is, you know, expensive, right, or maybe a bargain, right? So if this is a bargain or an expensive area, and this is a bargain or an expensive area, depending on obviously what currency you are buying, then this is pretty much, you know, you do your analysis and then you find out, and you say, okay, this is going to be the bargain area, and this is the area that I want to be a buyer, right, of the Australian dollar. So anything below fair value, which is the golden level, right, that yellow area here for me was a buy, right, for the Australian dollar. So then what I do is I look for any horizontal support and resistance, right, on the daily and also on the intraday. So horizontal support resistance, we had this area here. You can see that this was once an area of, just move it slightly like that, right? So support, resistance, bit of resistance and support here, support. So why do I do that? Because it adds to the supply and demand equation. Supply and demand traders are looking to get in here, and then you've also got support and resistance traders looking to get in here, right? So we're looking at obvious levels of support and resistance, obviously, and they're looking to potentially buy at this area. So net, you should have some demand here. So I have value here, I have some demand here from buying from traders who are obviously trading support and resistance levels, and then I look for diagonal support and resistance, right, for traders that trade things like trend lines and diagonal support and resistance. I didn't get any in this example, and again, this isn't a must, this is just pretty much just some confluence, right, and I'm looking for where the most demand potentially is coming into the market and reasons why, you know, traders from a technical perspective and from a value perspective are entering and potentially entering the market, right? And then we get some dynamic support and resistance. So dynamic support and resistance is really just moving averages, the 21, the 50, the 100 and the 200 EMA and SMA. So this is the 100 and the 200. If I'm being a buyer, then obviously the moving average is going to be above me at the moment. Right now, I use moving averages not to tell me which way I should be trading, because they are a lagging indicator. Right, I'm always trying to be ahead of the curve, right? But I do use this as potential support and resistance zones where traders are going to be taking potentially taking profit as well as entering trades. Now, in this example, I'm obviously a buyer of the Australian dollar. Now, I think fundamentally prices should at least hit fair value, right? Best case scenario, they should hit the top end of this range, right? So I know that there's going to be some resistance ahead of me, right? But as far as entering a trade, I didn't use any dynamic support and resistance to enter the trade. But from a profit taking perspective, if you are in this trade and you got in around this 81 level, right, or just below, then potentially you could be looking to take profit. Or again, I'll talk about this in the video, projecting your trades into the future, is expect a pullback, right? You're going to expect a pullback from this area here. You've got fair value, you've got, you know, these highly traded moving averages, and even on the you know, the 21 and the 50 right above us, right? So potentially we could see some strong resistance, and we could see obviously a pullback, right? But you have to expect this pullback and then expect something like this to happen. We might get, you know, a bit deeper pullback, right? But from an entry perspective, right, my analysis, we were at the bottom of this range. Tops and bottoms of ranges are usually my preferred you know, way of entering, right, and identifying ranges, identifying fundamentals, right? Risk is actually on at the moment. The yen doesn't do well in the risk on environment, and this is where I thought the Australian dollar was undervalued and really a bargain area. So I do expect a reaction from some of these levels above me, from dynamic resistance and some fair value. But if we are continue to be in a risk on environment, right, then we should get some, you know, a move to the upside, as I think the Australian dollar is you know, undervalued around here. So at the moment I'm in about 90 pips of profit. Let's see what happens this week. Hopefully, you know, Donald Trump keeps his mouth closed, and you know, risk on is continued to you know, be in effect. So let's see what happens to this trade. So hope you enjoyed the analysis. If you do have any questions, just email me at info@trading180.com. Hope you have a great trading week. Let me know as well if you actually do use these levels, right, and you've had some success in using these free daily supply and demand zones. I'd be happy to hear that you are getting some value out of this as well. So until the next video, take care, have a great trading week. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well, and share, and if you want to leave a nice comment, you know, that would also be welcome too. So take care, and until the next video. So if you'd like to receive the best supply and demand Forex levels absolutely free, click on the link in the description box below, enter your email address, and we'll send you the levels that we have just analyzed in this video. You'll get all of the major Forex currency pairs, and you'll get regular updates and never miss a Forex trading opportunity.